Hey, all you minties, this is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for my advanced look at the X-Men Mutant Massacre Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So, let's do this thing. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on January 11th. However, I've seen some dates of December 28th. Things right now are a bit of a nightmare for the distributor, especially every time there's a holiday season, so keep that in mind. But I'm pretty sure this will be out on January 11th, considering this was supposed to be out in August, then October, then December. Now we have the date of January 11th, but hey, at least it's coming out. Here it is. It's real. And what I'm holding here, what I'm pointing to is the direct market cover. The cover that I accidentally said was going to be the direct market cover. At first they were going to do just a reprint of this cover, but I made a mistake and David was okay with the change. He was like, you know what? No, keep it. I like that cover. So this is now dubbed the Omar cover. Don't tell Alan Davis I said that, but this is drawn by the phenomenal Alan Davis, one of my favorite covers of X-Men of all time, from Uncanny X-Men 213. So yes, direct market only. On your left-hand side is the standard edition cover. That one is drawn by John Romita Jr., and it's the cover to issue number 210. However, the cigar has been removed from Wolvie's mouth. The cover's still intact inside of the book, which we'll be looking at here in a little bit. As far as the spine, by the way, there is a blurb on this one, the same blurb that was in the original printing. One of the most iconic X-Men crossovers ever. It's actually the very first X-Men crossover ever. And here is what the spine looks like. You have Psylocke down here at the bottom. And then the back of the book. So you have a picture here. I believe that's Rick Leonardi's Wolvie from 212. I love this. This was my favorite crossover for a long time, then came Fall of the Mutants. But anyway, that's a whole different story. We have a blurb up here. A dramatic and deadly battle. That's what a massacre is. The Marauders are killing the Morlocks. I'm not making fun of comic book resources blurb. I'm sure my blurb would be a lot worse. I love these stories because they good. Uncanny Omar. Oh my gosh. But here are all the covers in the back. And then the retail price of $125. Really quickly, we'll do a comparison of the outside of the book. Then we'll do a comparison inside later on. But here we have Mutant Massacre is exactly the same font. The X-Men font up here. The same blurb, just a different cover. Honestly, the spines look identical with the exception of course, the picture here. And this is the cover to 213, which is the cover to the direct market there. Except it has a red tint to it, and Psylocke has this pink flesh tone to it. And the back of the book looking pretty much the same with the exception of the ISBN. It's a lot smaller over here. And the retail price. The original retail price was $100. This is $125. Under the dust jackets, you have this Steve Epting image that's going across the front, the spine, and the back. I believe it's a pinup, or maybe from one of the reprints. It's not from the original story, I can tell you that much. But that's definitely Steve Epting, you can tell by the face. The color is a little bit more orange than pink in the new printing. Now, let's get this book open, look at the artwork, talk about the story and where it takes place, and then do a comparison to the art inside of this original printing. Alright, so let's get this opened. We have some purplish end pages there. This Barry Windsor Smith cover from 214, which was the aftermath. The credits, another picture here by Rick Leonardi. Chris Claremont, Louise Simonson, Walter Simonson, Ann Nocenti, Joe Duffy, Roger Stern, Tom DeFalco, and Jim Shooter doing the writing. And then you have all this phenomenal talent here doing the art, like Mark Silvestri, John Romita Jr., Terry Schumacher, never know how to pronounce his last name. Never met the man. Brett Blevins, Walter Simonson, Butch Guice, John Bogdanove, Rick Leonardi, and David Mazzucchelli. And then you have all these inks like Terry Austin, Dan Green, and Al Gordon, just to name a few. Glynis Oliver supplying most of the artwork. Here we have a previously page letting you know exactly what has happened in the lives of the X-Men. And again, like I said, there is the cigar intact. It's just not on the cover. Now, what has happened previously? A lot. You have X-Men Volumes 1 and 2. I've done an X-Men reading order if you want to check that out. I'll put it on the link. It's updated. I'll put the link above. But what I was going to say is that before this, we have Uncanny Omnibus Volume 4. That's pretty much the volume before this. However, we have some missing issues. We have the fight with Nimrod. We have the big celebration issue with issue 200, where Professor Xavier's like, deuces, man, I met this lady. She's from out of town. I'm going to go off with her. Yo, my man, Magneto, you're in charge now. And then the X-Men have to believe the fact that Magneto is left in charge by Professor Xavier of not just the X-Men, but mainly his new team of mutants, the New Mutants. So that's what practically took place before this. There is so much more than that, but that's really condensing the story for the sake of this video. So, this is the Mutant Massacre, what was regarded as the very first X-Men crossovers. In the past, yes, they've had crossovers with other Marvel characters. They've appeared in the Secret Wars. They had an Alpha Flight crossover, and there was a crossover with the New Mutants Annual. But this is the very first time the X-Men have a mapping guide. Like, the X-Men, like, there's a map that says, after this issue, either go here or here. Read X-Factor or read X-Men. Now, it's a crossover, but it's a pretty interesting one because X-Factor's still doing its thing and the X-Men are still doing theirs. Like, these kind of things happen. You see Magneto sees the original 5 X-Men are there and wearing suits and they're hunting mutants, which is really odd for him. And it all kicks off with this right here. By the way, this is how it all starts. It all starts with the Marauders going to the tunnels by chasing this young lady named Tommy. They're chasing her and following her into the tunnels. As a matter of fact, that's where it ends. They chase her, she's a Morlock, and they're going into the Morlock tunnels because the Marauders are like the most evilest mutants ever, and they've been given the task to kill off the Morlocks. It's time to wipe them out. And the story really started with the idea in a summer retreat. There were just way too many mutants. All of the writers that were working on the books, Louis Simonson, Chris Claremont, and the editors agreed, you know, there's just way too many mutants. A lot of them are underused. A lot of the Morlocks are just lame. Some of them can turn milk into cheese. And I just made that up. But those kind of powers. So, it all leads into this. X-Men 211. With, I will never forget these words. Hi there. I'm Scalp Hunter. We're the Marauders. We kill mutants. Who's next? An introduction of villains so ridiculously one-dimensional. I didn't care. As a kid, I read this and I thought, this is the worst thing ever. Oh my gosh, they're killing all these Morlocks. Poor Annie Lee. Poor Sunder. Although Sunder does make it out later on. Then the X-Men are brought into this because during this time, Storm was leader of the Morlocks. And it's also important to note that during this time, Storm has no powers. So she has to lead her X-Men down to the tunnels. And there's a huge fight with the Marauders and the X-Men. And the most important thing out of all this is that some of the X-Men are taken out of commission for a long time. They will no longer be X-Men. Some of them stay gone for over a decade. Some 2 decades. And I will say one of my most favorite moments out of this is just the death of Innocence. And I'm not talking about Annie Lee there. I'm talking about Colossus. Because Colossus was one of the most purest X-Men to join, ever since Giant Size #1. And this particular story put him in a crossroads of what to do. You either stop the killing, or you let it happen. And the only way to stop the killing is to kill you. And oh man, it's such a dark moment for the character of Colossus. Here's Kitty Pryde, Scalp Hunter, trying to kill her. Although he doesn't go by that anymore. Now he goes by is it Grey Crow, I think? He uses his last name. Let's skip a little bit. Then we have X-Factor. They are also summoned to the Morlock tunnels because they're friends with some of the characters down there. Apocalypse is recruiting his 4 horsemen behind the scenes. Sabertooth makes an appearance. Sabertooth makes an appearance in X-Factor before his fight with Wolverine. This is the New Mutants issue right here. And the New Mutants issue is just one issue. Here is the Thor issue where he gets involved. Power Pack gets involved. This was previously collected in the Power Pack Omnibus. And then we get the big fight. And by the big fight, it's this right here. Wolverine versus Sabertooth. He smells something familiar in the tunnels. He smells an old enemy. Now, this is the first time we see Sabertooth fight Wolverine. This is a character that had appeared in the pages of Iron Fist, written by Claremont and co-created by John Byrne, but he had nothing to do with the X-Men at the time. Now he's brought into the X-Men as an old nemesis to Wolverine, and they're duking it out. This one is drawn by Rick Leonardi. It's a fill-in issue by Rick Leonardi, and then we have more Walter Simonson X-Factor. So what is collected in here is Uncanny X-Men 210 to 219, so we have way past the Mutant Massacre. X-Men Annual number 11, X-Factor 9 through 17, as well as Annual number 2. New Mutants number 46, Thor 375 to 374, as well as 377 to 378. There's that wonderful cover. This is the Daredevil issue of 238. Power Pack 27, Fantastic Four versus the X-Men 1 through 4, X-Men versus the Avengers 1 through 4. So, I love the way that this is mapped. Because even reading it then, coming out monthly, there were some things that didn't make any sense. Like, the whole time we were reading this, Uncanny X-Men Annual number 10 had come out, and we were wondering, wait a minute, where the hell is Longshot? Why isn't he helping? And Psylocke had appeared in the pages of New Mutants Annual number 2, which is her first American appearance. She's a character from Captain Britain. But this is the first time she joined the X-Men during that time. She does make an appearance here, and she kicks all kinds of ass in this issue. You can find out for yourself what that is. But, like I mentioned, the way that this is mapped is perfect. The way I would have mapped it. As a matter of fact, the way that I read Mutant Massacre is the exact way that they mapped this omnibus when I used to read them in single-issue format. Here we have some Mark Silvestri fill-in issues before he went on to take over Uncanny X-Men. Oh my gosh. Yes, the story of the 12. This is the first time that the 12 is mentioned during the Master Mold storyline. And the 12, of course, are these 12 mutants that are supposed to lead the mutants into the future. Of course, all that got resolved in Apocalypse of 12, even though it was not the way a lot of us thought it was going to go. Now we have Longshot showing up. And here's the, I think, yeah, Crimson Dynamo, Stonewall, and Super Saber here. And this one, again, drawn by Alan Davis, before Mark Silvestri took over the run. Did I call him Crimson Dynamo? I meant Crimson Commando, before they ended up joining the Freedom Force. We have this issue here with the Juggernaut that's kind of had a thing for Dazzler. So she does join the team. Havoc and Polaris. Actually, Havoc losing Polaris because of the aftermath of the Mutant Massacre. So if you're reading this and you want to read it in X-Men continuity, this takes place, if you're only getting them in collected editions in omnibus format, in between Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 4 and X-Men Fall of the Mutants. Now, Fall of the Mutants is being reprinted as an omnibus, so if you're waiting on that, that's where this takes place. So you have issues of Thor in here, you have issues of Daredevil, Power Pack, the annuals are back here. But the important thing to note is all these issues of X-Men that have never been collected in omnibus format are only found through this omnibus. So if you're going to ask me the question that everybody asks me, Omar, do you think those issues of Uncanny X-Men are ever going to be collected in Uncanny X-Men, say, Omnibus Volume 6? I don't know. During the time that this came out, because it originally came out as an oversized hardcover, and then they made it into an omnibus a few years ago, I would have said no, absolutely not. They're mapping this stuff around it. But nowadays, with everything going on, and because of the sales of Volumes 5 and 6, honestly, Conan had a lot to do with that, believe it or not. I know people are like, oh, I'm so tired of Conan. Doesn't matter. Conan made a lot of these future volumes possible because they saw the sales maintain and drop a little, I'm sure. But they saw the sales of something of a Volume 4 or Volume 5. And then Spider-Man Volume 5 really changed the game. That really tested the waters, and they said, okay, I think we're okay with releasing Volumes 5 and 6 of an omnibus. Here's an Arthur Adams cover. So, if you had asked me when the original Mutant Massacre Omnibus came out, I would have said no, they're mapping around it. Now, maybe they'll remap it one day, but not for a long time. And it won't be years until we get there. Until then, we have this, the Mutant Massacre Omnibus. Oh man, the story here with the Fantastic Four. Dude, Reed Richards is a prick. Like, the Hidden Diary. Oh, it's such a good story. I love that story. And we say goodbye to some of the characters because, like I said, something happened in the pages of the Mutant Massacre. And we ended up saying goodbye to some of the characters that had been with the X-Men for such a long time. Then we have X-Men versus the Avengers. I forgot that was in here. All 4 issues of the miniseries. Uncle Raj writing it with phenomenal artwork by Mark Silvestri. And then after this, he went on to draw X-Men. I love this dude. As soon as he stepped in, and I remember seeing this when it came out. Because I didn't get issue number 1. I got issue number 2. For some reason, issue number 1 had sold out. And I was a kid that had to work during the summertime mowing lawns or hanging tobacco to pay for my comics. Doing whatever it took. So I didn't have the money to reserve comics outside of Uncanny X-Men and X Factor at the comic shop. But this was one that I remember picking up. And I just was so glad that the guy in here was going to be the ongoing artist of Uncanny. And sadly, Uncle Raj did not get to finish his story, so Tom DeFalco stepped in and finished writing the story. Pretty much it was a, how do I put it, a disagreement on the character of Magneto and how he should be treated. So this is the annual right here. This is the annual that Wolverine, I know in the Guggenheim run, he can regenerate from a single cell. This is the annual where all that started, and that was because of a crystal, but you can find out for yourself. As far as the extras in the back, the book has 952 pages, by the way. We have some Marvel page articles back here. Stan's soapbox. I love this story. So glad that they reprinted it, and so glad a lot of you weren't able to get it, and now this is your chance to get it. Here's a teaser of the Mutant Massacre. Some pinups here. And one thing I didn't say, this is the map. Yeah, so at the end of Uncanny X-Men 210 and X Factor 9, this map is in the back. So this guides you on how to read them. But it doesn't have things like Daredevil. Because I remember when Daredevil came out and I saw, a character in there, I was like, okay, I have to get that because that's surely the Mutant Massacre. Some reprints. I was in the middle of something. What I was going to say is, yes, this. There's also something horrible that happens in the pages of X Factor. One of my favorite moments comes from that. And, well, if you look at those covers, it did have a spoiler. But, man, by the time you get to issue 15, it's a rough and sad read for a specific character. I want to say this is art, if it's not Kirk Jerevin. Oh, okay, so let's see here. Cover art, Dan Lawless and Kirk Jerevin. Okay. He had a very interesting big jaw style. Visionaries and different trade paperbacks, and then thumbnails of other trade paperbacks. As far as the binding of this particular printing, this is printed at the Donley printer. There's that big eye that we want to see. But let's do a comparison with the original printing. Alright, let's get these books opened. And this is going to be interesting because both of these were printed at the Donley printer. So let's get to this page right here. And do a closer comparison because I do have a stronger light on the right hand side making this look a lot lighter. But they are, well, even looking at it under the same light, I'll be honest, it is just a tad bit lighter than this right here. At least the pages we're looking at right here. But one thing, speaking of pages, that I'm going to say is that paper, honestly, feels identical as far as the thickness. It's the same thickness as this here. I don't see any, or feel any difference. And this is what the art looks like towards the very beginning. Colors look identical. Now I'm looking at them side by side. Let's take a closer look. The colors, side by side comparison here. They look a little bit brighter on the new printing. So the new printing just a slight bit lighter than the original printing. Very, 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 very minimal. Not a lot. As far as the way the book lays over, pretty much the same. This one's been read a couple of times, and I just opened this. But the way that the book lays over, they both about the same, really. Let's look at the middle. Yeah, same in the middle, and same towards the back. So honestly, the only difference I see is the colors. So the colors in the new printing are just a little bit brighter. These are a little bit darker in tone. But that's it. There's no other difference. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus, and of course, the cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely in an excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus, and of course, the comparison to the original omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, if you missed out on the first printing, if this is your first time reading it, if you love the Mutant Massacre, if it was your first X-Men crossover, and what you thought of the story. If you have any more questions, leave your questions down below. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to our patrons. Couldn't make videos like this possible without you all. Everyone, please stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.